Deep within the borders of northern Pakistan, far beyond the reach of our ordinary lives, the Karakoram mountain range cuts right through the stratosphere. It's a place of staggering beauty, but also profound, haunting isolation. Up here, the mountains aren't just formations of rock and ice. They're formidable forces. They sit dormant, completely indifferent to human ambition. And in the summer of 2026, this frozen world became the setting for one of the most devastating chapters in modern mountaineering history. Above 8,000 meters, the world becomes a place where every breath is a struggle. For the climbers who step into this unforgiving realm, the mountain is never just a destination on a map. It's a test against nature itself. Because at this extreme altitude, survival is never guaranteed. It's only ever borrowed. And nature? Well, nature eventually reclaims what belongs to it.
Part 1. The Frozen Kingdom. The Unforgiving Karakoram Range.
8,051 meters. I want you to let that number sit in your mind for just a moment. This is the sheer, devastating scale of Broad Peak. Up here, the atmosphere thins out to just a mere fraction of what our bodies actually need to survive. It's a height that inspires profound awe and a quiet, creeping dread. Broad Peak is the 12th highest mountain on Earth. It gets its name from this massive, kilometer-long summit ridge that deceptively looks almost like a flat plateau. But the reality of navigating this mountain is incredibly stark and deeply dangerous. To climb it, you have to pass over extremely steep snow slopes, totally exposed ridges, and hidden crevasses. It takes absolute technical mastery to survive its rapidly shifting weather patterns, where a clear blue sky can turn into a violent, blinding storm without any warning at all. Part 2. The Generation of Greats. The Elite Expedition of 2026. You see, mountains are defined by their geology, but expeditions, they're defined by their people. And in July 2026, Broad Peak hosted a congregation of some of the most elite, highly specialized, high-altitude professionals the world has ever seen. Take Nirmal Nims Purja, a former British Special Forces soldier who literally stunned the world by climbing all 14 8,000-meter peaks in just over 6 months. Then there was Pur Bahadur Gurung, affectionately known as Yukta, a man who had stood on the summit of Everest 10 times. Kili Pemba Sherpa, a veteran of the absolutely brutal first winter ascent of K2. Navira Al-Harthi, a pioneer who became the first Omani woman to summit Everest. And Sohail Saki, an accomplished Pakistani guide, geographer, and a son of the very mountains they were climbing. Behind every single one of these names was a family, a lifelong dream, and years of relentless, grueling preparation. The tragedy that unfolded didn't just end lives. It erased decades of hard-won expertise in a single day. High-altitude guiding relies on a very small, highly specialized workforce. Safety up there is maintained through the intuitive, hands-on experience of senior guides. So losing these specific mentors and route setters, it created an immediate, massive vacuum in the global mountaineering community. It's a loss that's measured in so much more than just grief. Part 3. Into the Death Zone. The Physical Toll of Extreme Altitude. As the team moved higher, leaving the relative safety of base camp far below, the journey turned into a grueling physical battle. An 8,000-meter expedition isn't just a climb. It's a slow, exhausting march into an environment that is actively hostile to human life. Above 8,000 meters, your body can't permanently acclimatize. It simply begins to die. Extreme hypoxia severely restricts oxygen to the brain. This physiological deterioration starts to set in, bringing a very real risk of fatal swelling in the brain or lungs. As cognitive decline takes over, every single step requires monumental effort. Your judgment clouds, extreme fatigue takes hold. Up in the death zone, every passing minute is a literal battle for survival. But this brings us to a really complex question. We know from reports that between July 18th and 29th, high winds and elevated humidity created highly unstable snowpack conditions across the Karakoram. So, why do the world's most experienced veteran climbers push forward when the mountain is so clearly signaling danger? Forensic analysis points to a psychological complexity that's deeply ingrained in extreme exploration. It's called goal-bound commitment. It's a heuristic trap where an intense, unwavering focus on a monumental goal actually clouds your objective risk assessment. For someone like Nirmal Purja, Broad Peak was the final hurdle. A successful summit would leave him just one mountain shy of becoming the first person in history to climb all 14 8,000-meter peaks 3 times, and twice without supplemental oxygen. The intense magnetic pull of making history, it can subtly alter the decision-making of even the most elite mountaineers on the planet.
Part 4. The Avalanche, July 30, 2026.
The events of that morning are permanently recorded in the cold data of GPS trackers and the stark geography of the mountain. By 9 a.m. on July 30th, the 10-member team was ascending a steep, heavily exposed section of the West Ridge, moving between Camp 2 and Camp 3. Then, at approximately 9:30 a.m., at an elevation of 6,600 meters, an enormous slab avalanche broke loose. It was a moving mass of ice and snow traveling with terrifying, insurmountable force. By 10 a.m., satellite GPS trackers painted a truly devastating picture. A rapid 800-meter fall down the face of the mountain. 10 climbers completely swept into the debris field below.
Part 5. The Impossible Rescue. Searching the Karakoram.
When the call for help finally went out, it triggered a response that was absolutely desperate and deeply heroic. But you have to understand, a rescue at 6,600 meters is a completely different reality than a rescue at sea level. The hurdles were virtually insurmountable. The Pakistani military, alongside fellow climbers who literally aborted their own summits on neighboring K2 to rush over and help, faced a compounding series of deadly threats. They were battling unpredictable, severe weather shifts, while military helicopters pushed the absolute physical limits of their altitude ceilings in that thin air. For the ground rescue teams, it meant taking on an extreme physiological toll, all while under the constant, looming threat of secondary avalanches. And even when they managed to deploy drones above the debris field, they couldn't verify any targets in the vast, chaotic snowpack. It was quite simply an impossible operation in an impossible environment.
Part 6. Ambition and Nature. The lasting echo of Broad Peak. Today, the mountain remains exactly as it was, unchanged, indifferent. But the human cost left behind is immense. We are left to reflect on the enduring, fatal allure of the high peaks and the fragile limits of human control over the natural world. As the legendary mountaineer Reinhold Messner once noted, high-altitude climbing is an encounter between human ambition and nature's power. It's a stark, haunting reminder that no matter our skill, our meticulous preparation, or our wildest dreams, the mountain always has the final decision.